a world starting later and later and later every night, and this should end. I should dial back the time of the start of the live stream because it is midnight for me. So I'm actually starting a new day with this beautiful event that we all gather for. Sid Hearth, hello. Sounds good, wonderful. Thank you, Kiva. Mohammed, hello. Today's topic is relationship crisis. I remember there was a huge moment in the online psychology. On YouTube, there were a bunch of articles I recall where people would analyze, hello everyone, where people would discuss the timeline for relationship crisis. Like people meet each other, no matter who they are, like little bio robots, people meet each other, and then they have this commonplace scenario that they go through. First, we are meeting each other, and we're absolutely clueless about who we just met. We don't understand what this person represents, and we're in this hormonal madness, just like spinning. Hi, we're just spinning in this love and erotic dance, absolutely enamored and absolutely nuts, with hyperfixation on the object of our love. Then, after several months, we enter this somewhat numbness, hormonal numbness, because there's no longer any dopamine from us engaging in relationships, and how to move on. We'll discuss that. And so we enter some crisis of like, oh my God, my partner is a mere piece of furniture. I could care less about him, but I want brightness of sensations. Let me pick his or her brain. Let me do something funny to induce this emotional roller coaster. This is extract from the articles and from pop psychology videos that I'm recalling right now. Hello, guys, and by the way, whoever's joining, like the stream and subscribe to my channel. So. And then after a year or two, there is some other crisis when people move in. There is some milestone because biorobots, they have a timeline for how their relationship should progress. So after a couple of years, biorobots typically move in together, and then they start having the power balance. Who is the one who establishes the law of the household? Now we enter the territory of this cohabitation and management of shared household. Then, after several years, there is some onset of some other crisis, which comes from accumulated resentment and fatigue, and frustration that was not talked about. And then, if you're still together, you are going to have perhaps the meaning crisis and complete burnout from the relationships. And then, by the time you hit the 10-year mark, you're a complete burnt out slave of some system that you built. And a little bit jokingly, but actually quite not, I put the first relationship crisis being before you actually enter the relationship. That is, oh no, I'm actually not in a relationship. I'm actually devoid of a partner. And this is the crisis number 0 in relationships. And how miraculous it is to trace all of these crises and progression of relationships that come from this absolutely crazy desire to have a partner to begin with. So from crazily wanting to have a partner, humans go through this process of enslavement of themselves into the system that they're building, that is relationships. Hopefully relationships are better than your handwriting, Jake. Thank you for your hopes. I'm writing backwards because the camera mirrors everything. So this is why perhaps there is a little bit of non-legible aspects of my text, but I'm writing backwards, so. And colorful characters. Yes, Kivushka, that's something that we go through routinely. So let's keep the pace. So we go from crisis number 0. I don't have relationships. I don't have a partner. What to do? Then to run immediately at the mark of 1 year that, oops, reality. Reality hits. Expectations are unmet. Suddenly, the fantasy that I built is not the fantasy. In real world, it doesn't match. Shit, what to do? And routine commences. Some routine builds up. At the market, this is all I sourced from some articles, okay? This is not something I made up. This is a source from the articles. At the mark of 2-3 years into relationships, there is boredom, seeing flaws, and actually having them as a centerpiece. Then, cohabitation becomes a thing when my partner is a piece of furniture, essentially. Jake, call it what you want, you're out of my channel. I don't have time for this, and I don't have space, real estate in my chat for this. At the 5-7 year mark, interestingly, the articles state that the reason for crisis is buried resentment, accumulated frustration, emotional distance, and more responsibility. So this is when people feel in a relationship that began from a desire to love, from the desire to enjoy, from the desire to be happy, to have a partner, to have someone to share their life with, they arrive to this point where they are no more than a burnt out, fatigued employee of the corporation that they built, the relationships, and they have seemingly no power, no leverage to do anything. In their psyche, somehow, they have no leverage, no say, as if they're the most submitted, the most low tier in hierarchy person in this system by this mark. And then 10 year, it's fighting over chores, experiencing burnout, fatigue, loss of meaning. So this is what happens by the 10-year mark. So we come from here through steps of absolute disappointment, something that resembles a career path. Does the article require the couple must live together? Say they don't move in until year 2-3. Does it start then? Depends. This is usually the time when I'm saying that when you watch people usually go through some scenarios. They, for example, they think that they have to move in after a certain mark that's found socially appropriate. Then they have to marry at certain mark that's socially appropriate, spend X amount of money for a wedding because wedding is something that's socially appropriate. Then they have children after some moment in history when it is socially appropriate, and so on and so forth. So if we think about the average human that we're absolutely not interested in fact, because average human is not representative of the individual path of a human, in this paradigm, these crises seem to be quite accurate. So, but yeah, from this idea of this beautiful love, beautiful life together, beautiful love-infused happy existence, beautiful attachment and warmth, we arrive to a burnt-out employee. This is the first analogy that comes to my mind. Employee that is on the bottom of the hierarchy, on the bottom of the corporate hierarchy. The employee that has no say, that has no will, that cannot roar and bark at their boss and change the environment, that feels absolutely disempowered to change the environment. And then there are also, I wrote down, the acute crises that are broken trust, cheating, then major life changes and violence. So these can be irrespective of the timestamp of the relationships. Some acute crises. So those are, of course, they can arise in month number 1 when there is some infidelity, which is also oftentimes broken expectations, broken trust. So this is what is surprising to me. Just as with intimacy, remember we're discussing with intimacy, you're growing up, you become a teenager, your hormones, your body are all blooming into this super powerful desire, romantic attraction, and then erotic attraction, and then you are dreaming of the moment anticipating that beautiful moment if everything happens healthily. You're anticipating this beautiful moment when you can engage in intimacy with some object of affection of yours. But then, what are we studying? We're studying relationship crisis today. But then, years go by, and suddenly intimacy becomes something that, no, it's painful, it's terrible, I'm not going to engage with that. No, no, no. So what happens in that? Why something that is a promise of the biggest pleasure, the biggest fulfillment, ecstasy, connection, what happens to that it transforms into a literal, perceived as punishment, perceived as a chore, perceived as a duty? What happens there? Here, what happens here? Why, from this deep desire, we come to this resentment? And in general, if you, generalizations are absolutely wonderful. I'm catching myself as well. But if you look at the couples around you, not look at the couples around you, what is happening? What is happening? People, I know from my live streams, one of the things is that comes to mind, what is the purpose? What's the purpose? People are like, what's the purpose of relationships? There must be some purpose in relationships. There must be some purpose in life. What purpose? If you're seeking purpose there and then, you're not here and now. But then in relationships, sometimes people manage to go over crisis because there's some purpose. We need to sprint to marriage. We need to like hold our breath and sprint to marriage. Or we need to now brace ourselves and sprint to kids. And now we will brace ourselves to wait for kids to grow up. But relationships are happening here and now. The experience of relationships, just as life, is happening here and now. Just as any process in life only happens here and now. And the milestones are quite fleeting. The milestones may bring some clarity. The milestones may aid in building some structure. Indeed. For instance, if we legalize relationships, we're building structure that can interface now with the system. We may gain some commodities from the system by legalizing our relationships, by defining a unit, that now we are this legally indivisible unit. Sure. But otherwise, relationships are happening continuously. And nothing about the psyche, or nothing about the processes, interactions change just by virtue of going through some milestone. Besides, for instance, development of more tension and pressure on self when we put too high of an expectation on something, that it must have some purpose. People are so easily distracted. It always depends how serious you are. Emo, outside resources. I'm vulnerable because I speak to it most of your life in a world of lies. If to seek purpose, I think it will just be a repetitive cycle. There won't be satisfaction. Yes, there won't be satisfaction because even the results of the pursuit, they are to be savored. Do you have a habit of savoring them? People hardly have a habit of that. And what we exercise develops. If you exercise holding breath and sprinting from thing to thing, then you're exercising, sprinting with tension, sprinting with expectation towards right there and then. And so relationship crises, are they mandatory? Are they mandatory to go through? I think it really heavily depends on the outlook. It really heavily depends on whether you are perceiving relationships and living relationships, or whether you are coming to relationships with the lens of how it should be. I think that this is the major distinction. Just as, for instance, if we take two couples, one couple we'll call functional couple, functional relationships, and the other couple we'll call dysfunctional couple, dysfunctional relationships. What will be differentiating them? They will both have conflict. They will both have some disagreement. They will both have some tension moments. But a functional couple will approach this dysfunction, this pain, discomfort, as the impulse to change the system. they're going to regard it as we will change the system. The couple who is this, that we'll label as dysfunctional, will be the couple who enters the conflict, enters disagreement, and then just pours a bunch of energy through, soils the relationship, never draws any conclusions, only accumulates, makes a conclusion that I hate him or I hate her, and keeps living the same system. Nothing happens as a result. Dysfunctional couple regards the system as something that happens to them. They regard the actions of the other person as something that happens to them. They don't take leadership. They don't partake in this organizational role in building the system of relationships. So this is the distinction between functional couple and dysfunctional couple. What's going on today? I don't understand the chat today. What's happening today? Thank you, Kiva. Hello, John Matthew. And so with the crisis topic, yeah, you meet a person and you have a lot of due diligence to research who they are, what their life path was, assessing their character. Hello, the great Tom. You're assessing their character, you are building some intimacy, you are verifying whether the person is safe and comfortable or not, whether your energy even aligns, whether your lifestyle aligns, whether your aspirations and core things align, because there is always a basis in the human perception. What do you live for? Do you live for struggle, suffering? Do you live for joy, happiness? Do you have a balance of discipline and sensuality, impulsiveness? How do you treat your impulses? Then how much time do you need to be alone and to be with the partner? What is your demand for attachment? What's your demand for intimacy, communication? Thank you, Nico. These things, they need to come in alignment. And sometimes, of course, there are disconnects. Of course, there are things that don't match. And discovery of those things may be associated with frustration, temporary frustration, or long-lasting frustration. But in case of a person who approaches these things with entitlement, that it should be a certain way. Hello, Chad. Then it can be a full-blown crisis, because that will cause the strike and the clash of egos. I want you to be this way, I want things to be this way. And this person gets personally attacked, the other person gets personally attacked, and they feel like they're bad, they're not good enough for that person, because they're not catering certain things that are of high value to this person. So this is, of course, a difficult moment. And what exacerbates those things, besides entitlement, is, of course, the situation that I call tangled guts. When there is no space in relationships, when there is no sufficient autonomy, when there is no sufficient self-sustenance in each of the partners, when there is not enough, thank you, Wayne, so much, when there is not enough life of each partner in the world, in their creativity, in their leadership, when there is not enough understanding of what you do in life, when there is no basis, no foundation in each partner's life outside of the relationships. So in this situation, they go on this hunt for treasure inside of each other. I'm frozen. Why am I frozen? Am I still frozen? Am I frozen? Let me lower the AC, I guess. So in this situation, this weird situation of tangled guts, we're going to endure the crisis much more aggressively. This first moment of disappointment, reality hits when expectations are unmet and when we start building a routine. So, this, the lack of autonomy, the abundance and prevalence of expectations that come from person not seeing. I want to view it. Um, when you're not seeing your own path, when you're not seeing your own treasure, when you're not seeing your own energy, when you're not allowing yourself freedoms that you are called to awaken through the encounter of the other people, from the encounter with your path, this is when relationship crisis will be raging. And surprisingly, relationships that are going through these crises, the strongest might be the most glued together. Those relationships might be the most stable in a sense, the long-lasting ones, because there is such an interpenetration of humans into each other. Very, very painful bond that will be racing against each other's physical resources. And at the time when both partners will find themselves depressed, exhausted, drained, anxious, angry, perhaps with destroyed careers or dissatisfaction with their performance in the outer world, years later, having gone through these raging crises and having this super painful attachment, they might come to understanding that perhaps something needs to be fixed. Or they will cool down and build a huge distance between each other. Or they will build a shield. For instance, in couples with very, very strong inclination to tangle, to suck each other's blood, and go through these passionate encounters, through these passionate crises, in this couple, people may develop some physical symptoms, or they might develop excessive weight, or they might develop segmented reality perception, or they might develop very weird communication patterns. They might develop such protections, physical and mental defenses, that they would be hardly appearing as adequate people if you watch them communicate. This is an interesting paradox that I see in a lot of couples that have made it through a bunch of shit like this, but never actually fixed the underlying problem. They build distance not out of their own creativity, desire to live, out of their own strength, completeness. They build a distance based on inability to sustain this ill bond anymore. They've had so much together that their psyche perceives a large part of their partner as a threat or as a major discomfort to protect against. And that is a rather tragic outcome, I think, because it puts a person in such a tiny box, in such a limited, oppressed, and weak state, that it is pretty bad prospect to expect by the time you reach middle age, when you are likely, if you live a good, sustainable, energetic, healthy life, when by the time you achieve middle age, this is the time when you get a chance to enjoy the fruits of your work. That's the time when your creative confidence, when your creative momentum becomes the most powerful. This is when you discover very interesting kind of freedom. This is when you can, by that time, you can achieve sexuality that's not performative. That's when you can achieve this existential libidinous state, This is when you are going to be in most powerful leadership states that you can have, because you already have enough experience and at the same time you have a lot of energy. So this is an intercept at which you're going to live the most powerful life. But should you settle for this bullshit and not reframe what your relationships constitute, it is likely that you will meet the middle age with far less potential, far less enjoyment, far less resources than you would otherwise. And then, of course, it's a somewhat of tipping point when you pave the path toward your advanced age. And that's the moment at which it would be really good to build foundation for comfortable, energetic, and beautiful advanced age period of your life. But if by your side there is a person who mandates, who solidifies this living as a burnt out employee, slave employee, who cannot change anything in the system that they built, then the outlook is rather grim. How many people we've met who cannot or who lose any value in taking care of their body? How many people we've met who lost the ability to genuinely enjoy things, genuinely experience and live through the life experiences? How many people we've met who do not have, as it appears like they don't have sensuality, as if they underwent erotic death? Their body is closed, their sensuality is turned off, their ability to enjoy is turned off, or highly limited to food, for instance, munching food, some instant gratification things, or to it's called vicarious or subliminal enjoyment through somebody else. They can watch someone enjoy life. They themselves can't. They're disconnected from their body. How many people we've met who display an insane level of fatigue, who verbalize, who say this mantra that it's too late for me, who verbalize this thing that there's nothing that will surprise them anymore in life, that they will also be verbalizing some statements, blanket statements, that all women are this, all men are this, I will never trust a woman, I will never trust a man. Or that relationships, well, that's some sacrifice. Or children, that's a sacrifice. It's hard, but you can't live without it, I guess. You should do it. Or if I was younger, I would never marry. Or when I was younger, there were so many more good options, but I chose this. And this is what's commonly heard from people of various ages, in fact. There are people who arrive to this wisdom as early as 28. There are people who arrive at this wisdom as early as 40. Some people arrive at this wisdom at 70. But I saw other people. I saw women who wear lace underwear at 80, who flirt with men of different ages while being married and having insane passion inside of their relationship. I saw women who are so frisky, so libidinous and bright at the age of 80, 90, who still radiate their libido, who still enjoy things, who still enjoy and laugh and can be playful. What is it if it's not a personal choice? To choose your energy over everything, over some social programming of how things should be, over this mantra that we hear about relationships, this wisdom, plethora of wisdom in relationships, how you should endure, how you need to be wise, how you need to be patient. It erases your personality. Remember the other metaphor that I was giving? How a lot of the speakers, conservative especially speakers, really love this idea of how you sacrifice a chunk of you into some bloody bucket. You just drop your flesh into this bloody bucket and expect to be paid for this pain and sacrifice, this holy sacrifice. You're sitting and you're like, now you, partner, do the same. Throw your treasure, throw your well-being into this bloody back bucket. Serve the idea that I want of you. Play along with my expectations. Live inside of this cage that I will build for you. We're a couple, we're a happy couple now. Photo for Instagram. Pregnant photo shoot. We tied a knot. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that leads to horrible outcomes. And again, the saddest part is that people become cognizant of that oftentimes very late in life, when they have exercised this mode of operation for decades or 10 years. How old are you yourself? I'm 31. Is it normal to have doubts whether the relationship will work? What do you mean by work, John? What is relationship will work? Right now, you are in relationship, let's say. You have a person with you. Is it working right now? What is working? Can we see the board? Yes, we can. Poo, poo, poo. You're deep. I like you. One of your live streams inspired me to move forward in the direction of trying to better myself. Leap 7 in. My cat is in charge of our relationship. This is fighting over chores, burnout, fatigue, loss of meaning. If not marriage, then what? Why not marriage? I mean, it can be, what I'm talking about is how people perceive it, as if it is a milestone to strive for. Like marriage is automatically making something happen. Or like moving in makes something insanely glorious to happen. Moving in definitely changes life, because it introduces this idea that cohabitation substitutes relationships. This is a very also dangerous thing in the relationship that has nothing in common with your pink floral ideas of how beautiful it will be in relationship. When we think about cohabitation, when we actually look at it in real life, often people confuse relationship with cohabitation. You can coexist with someone in the same space but have no relationships. You may not be able to create the space of relationship because you think that the walls of your apartment create the space of relationships, which is far from truth. I mean, long distance relationship. Okay, long distance relationship. And what? I want more details. Write me the story, like what's happening, what is the problem, and what do you want? How it should be, in your opinion. Let's bring clarity to that. What you don't like, what you want instead, and then we'll work. Then we'll be painting the roadmap. And so here, when there's fight over chores, now this is kind of a symptom of erotic death. At that point, when feeling burnt out about household duties, and when that becomes the main source of emotional richness, emotional experiences in the couple, that's tragic. And again, it's always very good to review, like, what was that pink, floral, beautiful candy dream here when relationship was not on the horizon, or was only on the horizon? And how is what's happening match that? And also, what was your intention with the relationship? Another thing that we haven't discussed is that prior to relationships, perhaps there could be different motives of entering the relationship to begin with. The reason for crisis or predecessor of crisis could be your intention when you enter it. Do you want to be adopted by your partner? Do you want your partner to fix you? Do you want your partner to fix your life? Do you want to achieve your goals through your partner? Like, I want to be a wealthy person, like this super like hustler who makes a ton of money deep inside. But I will be looking for a man or for a woman who will be doing that, and who will be doing that instead of me. I myself, I cannot claim this desire. I will rather find someone who will do it for me. And so there could be this desire to be adopted. There could be desire to fulfill your dreams through your partner. There could be a scenario in which you want to cover a void. You do nothing to care for yourself. You do nothing to build your life into something beautiful up to your standard. But you want to find some lady or some guy, or anything in between, to build this beautiful life for you, setting up an insane expectation and demanding a ton of resources from a person. This is a ticking bomb, where the more expectations you have and the more responsibility you foresee the partner to partake in, the harder will be the crash of those expectations. Because we can, in this first stage of courting, we can entitle our partner with this high energy state. When we maintain this high energy state, when we're being our best self, when we are in the beginning of relationship, showing our facade, we can, it kind of can beautify our life or make us more numb to something that's wrong. Or we can see that our partner surely has this resource to fulfill some void in our life. But then when it dies out, and you no longer put any effort into increasing this energy, into beautifying your life, this is when there's this blank field, like, where is my resource, where is my energy, where is my beautiful life? You somehow did it the month ago. Do it now. Why is it all down? Why are you coming from work tired? Like, you shouldn't. You should be making our life beautiful. Do it. Hey. So the higher there is this excitement, the higher the excitement in combination with expectations, the more it will crash miserably. It will crash into some deep misery. And then here, when boredom commences, I saw these horrendous reels of how People relax in relationships when they no longer, when they, again, they confuse relationship with cohabitation. They become relaxed, they shrink their social circle, they don't go learn new things, they don't go expose themselves to new experiences, they don't develop creatively. Relationship kind of satisfies something essential for them, and they settle for that. They don't take care for themselves, they don't move on, don't develop. Of course, it will be very boring. I think Lana Del Rey has a song, Video Games, where she was describing how she was talking about this song, the premise for it, and she was saying that it was very nice to just sit and play video games with that guy. It was very blissful, very nice state to be by his side, but at the same time I was feeling like my life was just flowing past me. But this sensation of life flowing past me, to be cognizant of that sensation, a person needs to be in contact or claim their creative part. They need to be open to the idea that they're far more than a partner in relationship and some like generic worker. They must become in tune with their creative part. That is ever demanding, that's always associated with expansion. That's always going to bring you energy, that's always going to challenge you, that's always going to trigger you to develop. Hence become more interesting person and constantly seek updates, constantly seek development, constantly seek growth, novelty. Being in tune with the changing world, being in tune with the new demands, being acknowledging your desires, acknowledging how else you could play, feeling some, being in tune with your deep interests. That is where you get connected with the flow of life. And that's where relationships will become a little bit secondary or on the same level, because you're going to be building your relationships while remaining in the flow of life. When relationships, this like crisis of boredom here is a good illustration. When you stop in the flow of life, life passes by and you stopped, got rooted and settled in relationship. This is where it becomes very boring. This is where it becomes highly non-fulfilling, and this is where you're going to be looking at your partner and saying to them that, I gave you the best years of my life. I sacrificed so much for you, pay back. Or it will be a huge grief because something like time will not be returned. It's really important to stay vigilant and stay on top of the flow of life, no matter what you're doing. And this is the key to alleviating these crises, or actually having clarity. One of the things that's really important is having clarity. In every problem you're solving should be clarity. And clarity comes from being tantrically embodied, let's say. When we talk about the objectives of Tantra is to bring all components of your personality and your body into one, to work in accord, in this orchestrated fashion, together. This is when we are achieving this alignment. And this is when we have clarity, peak clarity that can be achieved. Peak connection with our desires, hence we can do goal setting. And hence, when we have clarity of who we are, what we want, what our path constitutes, I can easily bring any concerns to my partner in the form of my desires. I want this. Instead of coming to the partner and saying, pay back. I'm not fulfilled with my life. Pay back. Do something. Pay back. Give me back for everything that I sacrificed for you because I was sabotaging my desires. Pay back for everything that I've donated, that everything I've lost, all resources that I lost. Pay back. How can you pay it back? No way. And here is this growing resentment, frustration that was never realized, aggression, buried aggression towards each other and towards yourself, and feeling that you have to choose between life and relationships for whatever reason. Okay, I'm into self-reliance and independence. You see this in my first time in a serious relationship where we discuss about future and stuff. But I feel like it happened quickly. I have fear that if I go all in, I might get hurt. How does it tie with what is all in? Yes, actually, relationship should not be hard. Yeah, what is all in? This is actually on par with what I just discussed, because all in means there's some element that you're going to sacrifice something. It sounds like that. That's why it feels so scary, because it feels like there is some element of sacrifice. Are you really on top of what you want from life? Because why do you need to have this trade-off? I understand there's a natural trade-off. We have only 16 hours of awake time in a day. Of course, we need to use sometimes triage for what we're doing. Sometimes we need to be making some uncomfortable choices. But on the grand scheme of things, how did you end up in a situation in which, let's start drawing on the board. How did you end up in the situation in which there is all or relationships and nothing else exists? How did you end up there? Why are you in this boat? Life is domain with a bunch of different things. Why is this a dichotomy? All in, relationships. Broski digs, hello. Ben is throwing stereotypes in the chat. What freedoms are you sacrificing? Sounds like, to me, everything shrinks inside of me when I hear that. There is some like bloody bucket, and all in is just supposed to go and is supposed to fill this bucket. What remains of you then? Like, why does it feel like it should rip off everything that's you? On the basis of what? How much also, if you visualize the domain, how much of your life are you willing to make actually relationships? Why do I want a relationship until I actually have one? We need to understand what about relationships you're looking for and how you organize this. Because relationship, again, this thing, all into relationship, commitment, tying a knot, changing life forever. What are the freedoms that you are putting in that bucket that cause this conflict? Well, I thought that relationship is something that is one of the most important things in life, and you got to make the right choice that is good for both individuals. Okay, good for both individuals, in my understanding, is that both individuals can still function at high energy. So you fulfill in relationship, you fulfill something and multiply something. that you can function very well in your creative pursuits. But if you're just going to sit and stare at each other, expecting that some magical thing will happen and some insane amount of fulfillment in all areas of life will follow that, especially if there is some, again, expectation that the partner will be the one that will fulfill something that they cannot fulfill, that will be a slowly progressing catastrophe. So what is that all in relationship? What is that all in? What are you what feels like sacrifice? Does it feel like you're not going to have a choice for other partners, for instance? Like you claim a partner, somebody claims you, and you're like closing the door, you become invisible for the world. Is that the fear, for instance? Is there fear that you're not going to be able to just look at a pretty person, some random pretty person, and get genuine excitement? Get into fantasy. Start thinking about them. Is that a fear? Is it a fear that you will need to suddenly reorganize your life, make a lot of logistical changes that will make your life less convenient? Is that the fear? Is there a fear that now your time will be submitted to some family functions, going to some dinners and stuff like that, instead of spending time the way you want? Is there fear that there will be very little tiny domain in which you could live your personal life separate from your partner? For example, listening to music that you want and they don't care to listen to. Watching movies that you want and they don't want to. Going with the friends that are not friends with your partner. Engaging in some creative activities that they are not going to engage in. Are you afraid that you're going to lose that freedom of doing things that are important for you? We need to make a list of everything that you think you will lose due to relationships. Be very frank with that. Right? Write list that exhibits maximum number of things. Be very demanding for that. And you can imagine yourself even like 20 years later in the worst case scenario. That will be a cool exercise. 20 years later, there's worst case scenario. You committed to a relationship and what you sacrificed. Like what is in that bloody bucket? What's in it? It's a sin to feel insecure in long distance. What? Is it a sin? Sin? What's sin? Can you define me a sin? I don't understand. How can I talk to my crush? Approximately like this. You open your mouth and you're talking. But the main thing is to be relaxed. Remain relaxed. Meet yourself first by having one. The honeymoon only lasts a couple of months, and if you make it 2 years, then someone will be cheating on you. Most likely the woman will be cheating on you. The best relationship I've had was when we were both very busy and limited time together. That's a good point, by the way, because again, not everyone. You might be the person who needs this much of relationship, like active relationship, active engagement. There are people who need to be together 10 hours a day. And it will be a catastrophe if the person who needs 10 hours to be together, to be spent together, they meet a person who needs 1 hour a week of being with someone. There are different attachment needs. There are different needs for intimacy. And there are different personal preferences and personal resources that determine how much a person may remain with someone and how much of personal undisturbed space they need. So with that, it may be that you matched on your attachment styles, on attachment demands. It may be that you were, you're the source of your business if you were busy and very tired or if you were busy and actually tired and fulfilled. Because if you were very fulfilled, you were on your path, both of you were on the path, then it makes sense because you were effectively two satisfied, happy people who only came to the domain of relationships to do something that is related to relationships and nothing else. Other things were fulfilled fully outside. You have lucky genetics, just pick the richest guy. Thank you for the tip. Wayne, are you agreeing with the person above or with me? And so, John, another thing, by the way, you're writing the most important thing, the right choice. How much pressure is on that? How much pressure is on that? It's like as if there is life and relationship occupies a huge portion of that. And that, again, remember what we started with. We started with is that if you bank too much on relationships, if you bank too much, and you have very high expectations, it is likely that relationship will be burdensome and burdened by a lot of the pollution right up front, with high likelihood of crisis. If you treat relationship, and then also, by the way, relationship will end up, the paradox, 20 years later, you will realize that this relationship that was very ill will be the main thing that largely determined the course of your life. Because of so much dysfunction, because of so much expectations, because of so much resentment, because of so much dissatisfaction. This is the paradox. And then, if you reframe it as relationships are part of otherwise fulfilling life, relationships do not infringe on a lot of your freedoms, and only you elect certain freedoms that you're willing to exchange for other freedoms. But otherwise, you remain on top of your life. You remain in touch with your body. You remain in touch with your internal compass. This is when relationship will become a very productive, enriching, beautiful space that will be contributing to your development. And at the same time, it won't feel like something detrimental, something that weighs on you, something that you carry like this heavy burden. And also, 20 years later, you may say that relationships were the main thing because through those relationships, you achieved, I don't know, some bigger clarity, bigger fulfillment. You will feel insane gratitude to your partner. You will feel insane gratitude for having relationships. And you will feel like it has very strong value, but in a very good way. But just placing relationships in the domain of relationships, as opposed to confusing everything, mixing everything, and making your entire life with all in, zooming in on this little thing, shrinking the domain of your life, your awareness on this thing, and now this thing determines everything and must be so perfect, it must be so ideal, it must be so fulfilling, that if it's slightly something's wrong, then I'm crashed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand the logic? Okay, thanks for... Are you 18? 1835. I'm 31, guys. Thanks for talking with me. I think it's just not only a relationship thing. I kind of have some insecurities to deal with. Insecurities may be, again, just hyper-focus on something. Tightness, tightness. Insecurity is when, instead of many pillars in life, instead of having many supports, we just grab onto something one. And if that's gone, I'm literally just gone with the wind, like a balloon that's released, you know? This is why important to be cognizant about all parts of your life to have many pillars. Yes, something, some area of life may end up being troubled a little bit temporarily. Problems arise. What do? It doesn't crush. I get resources elsewhere. I feel stable because I know that in other areas of life, I have something. I can defocus. I can zoom out. I have a skill of zooming out and seeing parts of my life. Because people, when they have a problem, hyper focus on the problem. They tend to not notice that they have body, that there are people around them, that they have resources. Even when there is life crisis, there's still resources. They're just not capable of thinking resourcefully anymore because of this shrunk aperture through which they're seeing only very narrow domain. And hyperanxiety, heightened anxiety about, let's say, relationship, whoa, importance is so high. Importance generates what? Importance generates expectations. Expectations generate disappointment. Your idea of people who need 10 hours a day versus those who need 1 hour a week. People can be very different in their relationship needs. Yes. Remember also how people were going absolutely nuts during the pandemic. Living together. Why are people always struggling on the most basic life tasks? Because the most basic life tasks are not approached as from within. Most basic life tasks are often approached through the external lens. They're approached through systemic lens to which you need to adapt, because systems were built to manage slave classes, and slave classes need to be efficient workers, low maintenance efficient workers. And if you're trying to use that system that's applied to make slaves efficient, cheap workers, low maintenance workers, and safe also, safe without will, you are not going to perhaps achieve your genetic maximum. Because by design, this perception of self through the lens of the system that regards you as a low maintenance, cheap workforce is not conducive of that. But at the same time, what we call society, what we call some social norm, what we call some, it must be such, this is written in some scripture and whatnot. These are the instruments of designing certain behaviors. I'm teaching here on my channel how to connect to yourself and how to work from within. How to connect with your desires, because through your desires, nature speaks. Deep desires, authentic desires. To find authentic desires, we need to come to as pristine, as pure and complete and wholesome self, to reduce the conflict, to reduce tension, to bring health into the system. This is when authentic desires come to surface. This is when I want is being confidently stated from the depth of your heart, let's say. From the depth of your heart and every other body part. And when you treat things from within, you're writing your own rules. When you understand that, okay, I need this much freedom in my life, I need freedom in these areas. These things are key and very important to me. These things is what I want to try. This is where I want to exercise my curiosity. This is the mood that I want to have on a general basis. This is my background thing. I'm not settling for anything else. This is my law. I'm striving for that. This is how much I want to work in life. This is how much I'm willing to work for these resources. You're writing the law from within, not from the how it should be, how your grandparents did it. Because every generation is largely affected by the economical system, but at the same time, most people, again, they're coming from slave class. Multi-generational breeding of slave class into slave class. So, having your own optics, having your own perception of life and healthy perception of life is a very good skill that suddenly makes basic skills, basic process basic indeed, because clarity comes to your life. When you are connected, you feel clarity. Oh, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Zoe. Oh, I'm all in. Been married 22 years. All in. Have very good moderation. Because people addicted to passive activity like watching someone on YouTube. I both want birth control. No, I've never been actually. I agree, a healthy relationship should have a perfect balance of independence and individuality. Systemic lens, 100%. Every relationship should be allowed to explore its own unique cosmic attraction, not being pressured into a category. Yeah, I think so. That's the dialogue, when two authenticities are speaking and allowing each other to, without any expectations in the space and the beautiful garden of your love, the beautiful garden of your relationships, to speak your truth, to see how you can work it out. Okay, so people struggle because they're slaves. Okay, that makes perfect sense. Sure. Lots of interesting case studies, Kiva, yes. If you only knew, Kiva, what moderation is removing. You have a mustache. Yes, I do. Every woman has a mustache. Mine is darker because I have a little bit of southern European blood. It runs in the females in my family. Marriage should be for life. Common dreams for retirement. What? What's retirement? Retirement is when you get to live finally the way you want. After having lived most of life the way you didn't want, or what? Like what's that? Thank you. Be nice. Thank you so much. I think I can take a wild guess, but probably shouldn't about the moderation. Yeah. I'll go have Nico. Great to see you. I'll go have some tea, and I'll be back. I'm 31. Yeah, what's retirement? Yeah. One of the scariest things that, life path wise. I remember my stepfather was really admiring, uh, for some reason, his idea of how German people lived, how they were working hard without any vacations. That's how he was imagining that. He was delivering this idea to me when I was a teenager. How German people work very, very hard without vacations, virtually without any weekends, the entire life, surrendering everything, and then they enjoy retirement. They retired, 65 probably. And I remember we were on summer holidays, and I remember those buses dispatching German tourists. Almost identical. Older women and men in white long socks, shorts, and sneakers, with some guide with a flag. And I was like, okay, this is when they start living, right? This was so horrible. And it made me so inspired. And then I saw that again when I worked at the corporation. I witnessed the retirement party. When the person ended their career, they had a 45-minute group meeting to celebrate that. And they showed the 30-minute PowerPoint about their corporate life, 20 years for working for a company. And then people started asking, what are you going to do now? We're going to go camping. Wow, thank you so much, Mo. So I go, we're going to be camping. Nice, nice, wonderful. And then just, well, we'll just live. Well, yeah. And that was such a heartbreaking moment to me for some reason. Because the life of a person converged into 20 years. 20 years of life converged into a PowerPoint. And then it was a fatigued person. Fatigued, advanced stage person. And they've got this piece of life to experience something. And then, there's also an illusion that perhaps, like, after all these years, you, like, suddenly discover that, discover the taste of life. But at the same time, for all of life preceding that moment, you were exercising totally different thing. So often what happens is people quit their job and they go on this speed train down to some, not necessarily rest and enjoyment and savoring life, but quite the opposite, because they lose the only thing that was anchoring them, that was giving them some meaning. So that's how I treat these things. Kind of disturbing a little bit. We have religious propaganda. The whole world is based on hard work. What's hard work? Hard work is where suffering is involved. Hard work is based on what? That's, I mean, the economic reality. Yeah, we live in a developed economy where we have a lot of distribution of labor. Yes, this is something that we cannot win. We cannot extract any beautiful conclusion out of that. So I know someone that worked 21 years for a corporation and was let known that they didn't need her service anymore last Wednesday. Let go Friday. Unreal. Yep. All the men in my family have worked well past their need to. I don't think I can live without something to do. I'll know when to slow down. My body will tell me. Life comes at us hard. We have to stop and look around sometimes. Good advice, actually. Imagine if you get to afterlife and they give you a cat and you gotta do more work. No, I don't know. Why would I imagine that? Again, people sometimes are focused so much on afterlife and they're totally not able to focus on the present life. Afterlife somehow amuses people far more and occupies their mind far more than the present life, as if people gave up on the present life already and they're hoping for some pre-designed, they hope that there is an amusement park that's built by someone for them in some afterlife. And they're buying ticket to that afterlife by suffering right now and enduring more instead of focusing on the present life. Which also, this paradox always surprises me, how especially people who believe in creationism, they somehow don't choose to enjoy the creation of the present world, present life, and think about the afterlife. As if present world creation is some nonsense, and some afterlife that they have that's not guaranteed is supposed to be a fun amusement park, have more thrill. Elementary schools have kids' attention for 8 hours a day, 9 months a year, for 12 of the most formative years in a row. That's why we already know finance, health, and relationships so well. Sure. I'm 40 and I feel like buying houses and nice cars was super easy, but so was fucking off when I had nothing. Not so easy, those times were regrettable. I learned a lot. Thank you, Kiushka. Life is the most precious resource, yes? Choose the incarnation or choose the next dimension. Any other choices? Why do we need to think about it? How did we get to this point from relationship crisis? And it's actually all ties all. Everything ties together usually. That's hard because I love this universe, but higher domains might be inevitable if universe grows to higher dimensions. I don't know. It's a philosophical thing that we can leave for some other time, because again, I have live stream on escapism. How sometimes spiritual life, philosophical pursuits as well become form of escapism when person doesn't have a firm grip, and ability to control or do something, manage their present life, or refuses to face their potential for enjoyment, potential for creativity, and potential for their freedom to operate full force in the present life and find satisfaction in that. That's where spirituality, philosophy become forms of escapism. Sometimes intellectualized, sometimes it's really amusing sometimes, because it's interesting mental experiment that also leads to nowhere. So it's impossible to fulfill it completely. It generates a belief, and belief is some non-verifiable knowledge. Assumption or attempt to make yourself think a certain way. Gentle Seeker is bothered by the question whether I'm Latin or what genetic heritage. You tell me. Always find a way to tie back to the topic. Yes, Kiyoshka. Because to tie back to the topic is Christ, and relationship starts before the relationships. With the goal of relationship. Like for example, I fail to take care for myself. I fail to pursue my aspirations. I fail to hear my desires and to fulfill them. I fail to build a beautiful domain of my life. I fail to enjoy life on my own. So you will be the one, you the partner, my future partner, will be the one who will be doing this for me. Wonderful, wonderful. It reminds me of Elvis Presley's song. She talks like an angel, she walks like an angel, but... What but? Why do so many people act like victims? Like if you do the right thing, the human thing, every time you'll be good. Maybe not billionaire, but focus and you'll grow. People act like victims because there is glorified suffering, because there is entitlement to victimhood. There is an idea that suffering buys you anything. It's a really convenient currency that exists in the society. It's some social floating contract that suffering earns you something. Listen to the stories of celebrities. For instance, one celebrity grew up abused, went through SA, then had some moments of being screwed up by labels, going through horrendous events, and then they came to fame. The other celebrity was born in a good family, had very steady upbringing, went to music school. Their parents had some ties with someone, so through acquaintances, they reached fame very organically, pleasantly, and easygoingly. Who are you going to sympathize more with? And which story will be in the magazines? Which story will be told to the public? It will be the story of hardship, usually. The fairy tale about Cinderella, his story about hardship. We sympathize even. We're taught to sympathize with people who went through hardship to earn something because of hardship, not through suffering. Like suffering adds this extra value to activities. The person who suffered to doing something thinks sometimes that they earn more through doing that, as opposed to a person, for example, has natural inclination, easygoing way of accomplishing the same task without suffering. Suffering adds entitlement to receive something, to receive a pay higher than the value of the final product. That's how our society functions. Hence, victimhood is pressing this button that there is suffering that costs premium. This is an illusion of entitlement of suffering, using suffering as a currency. Suffering buys goodness, suffering buys success, suffering buys joy. Enlightened Farms, hello. Are you Polish? Yes, I am Polish. Half. Is it unhealthy to date an AI chick? I would say rather yes. But unhealthy, I don't know, for some people maybe it will be healthy, because if they need to heal attachment, this could be the most perfect playthrough scenario if they're aware of that it's a playthrough. They can play through a healthy attachment and absolute acceptance. That could be some, perhaps, they can have some therapeutic value. They can have a precedent of experiencing full acceptance and some attachment like that, if they need to heal this aspect. But it's far better to accomplish with a human, because with a human they will not be playing along with your projections at all times. Because with AI chick, as you worded it, with AI chick, she will be anything you want her to be, fulfilling every fantasy you want. With a real person, for instance, with a therapist, if you go through therapy, the therapist will, with you in relationships, will have a moment in which you will depreciate them, in which you will see that they're not 100% the product of your fantasy and your projection. And that crisis is essential for you to seek to find autonomy, to grow out, and to have a more complete picture of the world and relationships and perception of humans around you. So it is, I would say that it's unhealthy for most people. My hope is that there is something more next dimension. I fear it's light, so not only. Depression follows, but it makes me value what I have now. Victimhood is very profitable. Here we need to have discernment, whether it's victimhood as a scenario that the person lives through, that person exploits, versus victimhood that actually happened, the outcome of some unfortunate events, in which we shouldn't engage in victim blaming, because the victim needs trust. The victim needs to restore some trust in the world. The victim needs to heal and to be able to function normally. So we need to discern that. But when there is a learned victimhood as a strategy, as a tactic, when it's a repeated scenario in which person over and over ends up in this scenario, leaving people around the victim in some challenged situation, when, for instance, they use this tactic to seek love, to seek security, then as like victim of circumstance, seeking parentification from other people, then it would be good if person gets aware of that pattern, how it brings them nowhere, and they go through therapy and they try to undo this tactic such that they feel more empowered. Because victimhood, like victimhood as a tactic, victimhood as a scenario, can leave person in this learned helplessness when they feel like life happens to them, not they live life. So we need to have discernment there. I just told you, William Mendes. You seem like you're angry. What are you angry about? I'm not angry. Many things on earth have life cycles. Our energy wasn't meant to be fight or flight. I think we're meant to grow and transform into pure love energy after this life cycle. Victimhood seems to be like, okay, so thank you, gentle seeker. She's not angry. It's not just not common for modern men to recognize passion. Who cares where she's from? She's speaking from the heart. I can't say I agree with all, but she seems fair and speaks from the heart. I respect that. I'm 31. Just today is like the day of this question. How old am I? Sketching up on comments or live in the chat future? Cool, yes. Kivushka, great. Got the stream to work, by the way, just been listening. Great. Thank you for the pleasant and respectful conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you, bros. Kiddings. Whew. So we began today with relationship crisis, and we talked about. No, I was born in 94. And we've covered the very important things preceding the relationship. So how I would design the work, let's talk about briefly, let's talk about the predecessors of relationships. How it would be nice to set yourself up in the beginning of relationships or prior to relationships. And then I want to talk about how to exit the relationship crisis. Of course, there will be multiple scenarios, but we will just go through the general formula, something that applies to all cases. And we'll also look into crises that are related to this acute crisis, such as infidelity, abuse, events, then some life changes and such. From the tantric perspective. By the way, people who are new, because they have a lot of new audience, if you don't know, I'm tantra coach, tantra therapist. So that's the point with which I'm coming from. I'm a proponent, and I studied the secular form of tantra from a person with PhD in sexology. So it is an academic approach using the methods of tantra. Secular, I don't affiliate myself with any religion, and I teach tantra as a method. So relationship crisis, we want to talk about prevention, and solution, and solving. Preventing one, and solving one. This will be our next block. Let's see the chat again before I dive in. Nice, thanks. Psychology PhD. No, I'm not psychology PhD. I'm engineering PhD. Where are you getting this? Where am I getting this? What am I getting this? Thank you for hair compliments. It sounds almost like a review, but it's the next leap of this topic. Yeah, I have physics, bachelor's degree in physics, and I have engineering degree afterwards. So, and also corporate experience and consulting experience. So, we're going to look into prevention of crisis, and we're going to look into solving the crisis. Prevention we already discussed. Largely, we discussed the prevention of crisis, which is wholeness, second is being on the path, being on the path meaning I hear my desires, I'm a leader of my life, I know what I want, and I know I already tried how to achieve something. I tried and I know how to find resource, how to be resourceful, how to accomplish my goals. Then, proper domain for relationships. Relationships are not an overwhelming part of my life. Relationships are a part of my life. They occupy the proper domain. Healthy expectations. Healthy expectations are the expectations that I cover my bases on my own, and in relationships I have expectations that I'm communicating to my partner, that I am going to fulfill only in the domain of relationships. But I'm not expecting my partner to be my parent, I'm not expecting my partner to be my boss or my employee. I'm not building that hierarchy. I come to relationships with a lot of clarity and with very pure intention, with healthy expectations that put comma here, and pure intentions. Another thing, by the way, from relationships, other way around. A good thing to think about is also here for preventing is at least, I know that trauma sometimes heals inside of new relationships, but at least coming to understanding understand your patterns, your previous patterns. And start working on them. Because, for instance, a person could have been previously in codependent relationships. The person could be in abusive relationships. And they may approach new relationships without awareness of that. And that may become a new repetition, new re-traumatization, new unpleasant scenario. So it's very good prior to relationships to understand your patterns. Oh, Nico, great. It's really possible to avoid crisis. No, I mean, crisis avoid versus being able to solve. Which crisis? Again, I'm talking about how to reduce the intensity, severity of crisis. How to ensure that they don't hit you too much. Because in the beginning, I don't know if you were there in the beginning, I was discussing how one couple will run into some conflict. Then they express their discontent. Then they express their desires, how they want the system to be. they find a solution and they write the law that prevents this crisis in the future. So behavioral law. They develop a new behavioral pattern. So crisis became a developmental step. This is virtually what we will call functional couple. But a dysfunctional couple will run into a conflict and some disagreement. They will yell at each other. Instead of voicing what they want, they yell what they hate about each other. They hurt each other's ego. Then they separate from that pain. In a couple of days, they crave attachment again. They go back together. The system did not evolve. The system did not evolve. There was no new law in place that prevents this from happening. And there is no voiced desire. And there is no acknowledgement of that desire that would allow people to go step up and evolve the system and bring some better quality of life. So a couple of months later, or a couple of weeks later, the same system will repeat. The same conflict will repeat. And this conflict will be injuring the relationships, scarring relationships. Will be scarring each other's ego, turning each other into very ill bond, turning each other into some very ill object of attraction, ill object of attachment, further hurting the attachment between those people, creating the association that attachment is inherently painful, traumatic, unpleasant. And this will be spiraling into new and new crises, out of control. Because the following subsequent crises are associated with suppressed emotions, suppressed aggression, deep accumulated resentment towards each other. And all in the background of losing the initial idea, the initial concept why people got together in the first place. They don't recognize what they're building. They don't know what they're building. Like you bring two people from different countries who don't speak each other's language, you build them, you put them somewhere on an empty land, you give them some tools, you give them some brick, and you're like, okay, build. You tell them build in some third language. They don't understand what's happening. They're not able to build anything. There's no task. Yes, I was there in the beginning. That's a great point. No unfortunate part of crisis is learning and bonding. I've never heard anyone speak in Twilight language that I understood in real time. Got the title. Well done. What's Twilight language? Thank you, though. Do you like flowers? Yes, I do. Gentle Seeker. Kiva? Check this out. Thank you, Bros Kiddigs. So, wholeness, being on a path, kind of the same thing. Seeing your life full domain. And healthy expectation. I'm not going to healthy expectations. I'm not going to just like seek people like, oh, fix my life, fix my life, fix my life. Be my meaning, be my meaning. That is the path to codependence. This is the path to destruction. So solving one. Let's say a couple is in the crisis. And solving one is where my job actually becomes useful. This is where people actually come to me. People don't come to a Tantra coach to necessarily to prevent something. It's rarely a motivation, hardly possible to be a motivation. People usually come to a Tantra coach to solve a crisis that they're no longer capable of handling. And the stories sometimes are absolutely frightening. So solving the crisis. First, we need to identify what type of crisis we're dealing with. What is this crisis? It can be intimacy disappeared. There's no sex in relationships. We just live like co-inhabitants. Or any emotional connection besides, I don't know, some comfort, casuality of discussing some mundane things. Besides that, there's no emotional fulfillment. The spectrum, let's say, there is like normal spectrum of emotions like this. But in relationships, we only have this much left. Our conversations, our shared space only has this tiny slit of emotional spectrum. Maybe sometimes this. Maybe sometimes we yell at each other. Maybe we laugh once, like at some reel on Instagram together. But overall, very narrow spectrum of interactions, very narrow spectrum of emotions. And then in intimacy, in sex, for instance, sex disappeared. Let's say emotions, then sex disappeared. Like my partner with this emotional disconnect, without intimacy. No, this is how I perceive my partner. Just an animated piece of furniture. Person that does some chores. Person that I can discuss some plans for weekend. But there is nothing in common. We think that we just cohabitate. We think that these walls around us are the necessary condition for relationships to exist. Sitting at the same table, sitting on the same couch is substitution for relationships. When this happens, in this scenario, we need to grow a space of relationships. Where do we grow it? We grow it in our mind, we grow it in our psyche, we grow it in our communication. In the previous stream, we're talking about this buffer, this garden, the beautiful garden that we can build in our mind, and that we will be inviting people, whoever we build any relationships or communication with. I build a garden that signifies my comfort, that signifies my care, that signifies something cozy, some cozy space of my comfort, of what I consider to be beautiful. Some nurturing space for myself. I surround my mind with that space. And when I enter any communication, I'm not doing this to people. I'm not doing this to people. Or I'm not doing this to people, trying to shield from them. I'm inviting them to a beautiful garden. This is accomplished through visual work, through physical work, perhaps coupled with visual work. In Tantra we perform practices coupled meditation with body. We're using the symbology in your mind to build that space of relationships where I first become wholesome. I find energy, I find the person, I find the component of myself that has resource to be in a relationship, that has energy to be an active participant of space of relationship. And then in this garden, in this beautiful space, I am inviting my partner. And now we're not just like closing onto each other, short-circuiting on each other, or building a distance with each other. We are in one beautiful space, mental space, in which I am wholesome and energetic. And my partner is wholesome and energetic, and I perceive him or her as such. We're building that space. And now we're not just sharing one couch. No, I glow myself and my partner glows. I feel this radiance from my partner. I feel their purity. I feel their love. I feel the flow of life, flow of love between us. And that is existing in this beautiful, nurturing garden. How gorgeous. So we need to build that space first. This is where we start seeing each other as humans again, not an animated piece of furniture that I can confine my plans in or talk about what's for dinner. No, I see that core of person and I feel my own core and I get resource to be in relationship. Oftentimes people people just live together and they forget to activate that power. They forget to locate calories. They forget to activate that function that allows them to contribute to relationship, that allows them to actually love, actionably love. Not just see a partner, just like you see a desk in your room, you see a cupboard in your room, but see them as a source and object of love. This energy is turned on. There are multiple practices. One is this garden. Second one is divine union practices, in which we are inducing the visual of this partner. We are cranking their energy and radiance up. We're bringing them to the most beautiful, to the most exciting state possible. And we are observing how we are changing in response to that. It's a practice with multiple steps. We will conduct it in the workshop that will be on Saturday. Maybe not this workshop, but one of the next ones. You're lifting your state up. And you're exiting the meditation knowing that state. And then, when we work, let's say, with sex that disappeared, there could be more layers, of course, working with the body, with the physical aspect of that, because sometimes trauma gets buried, especially if intimacy was forced, especially as a woman, if it was forced, there could be some pain, fear, anxiety, also performance anxiety. This is where we also connect some physical work. Then type of crisis that's associated with fatigue and burnout. Fatigue and burnout in relationships. This is where we need to introduce full management. What does your life represent? Where do you engage in self-neglect? Where do you not feed yourself properly? Where you don't care for yourself properly? Where you don't hear your needs? Where you don't stick up for your needs? Where you yourself are allowing your boundaries to be pushed inwards? Where you are mismanaging your schedule? Where you are prioritizing everything but yourself and your well-being? This is where fatigue, burnout, this is where we begin the work on fatigue and burnout in relationships. To give you the ability to experience the wholeness, ability to feel taken care of, and ability to manage your life such that you overall, not even in relationships, overall, feel like you have good energy. We're looking into that first. And then, with fatigue and burnout, we also perform the same types of practices that allow us to find a resource to be in relationship. Then, sometimes there are crises that are associated with previous trauma. For example, I don't trust men. I don't trust men. I was cheated on before 7 times. And I saw that every man cheats and every man breaks heart and then gives up on their woman and just leaves in the sun, into the sunset. I don't trust men. I will never be with one. I will never be comfortable, and my man is no exception. I'm always going to be looking what he's doing, And I'm always going to be telling him, programming him, or telling him my own programming, delivering him my own programming to him, how everybody cheats, how everybody is a bad man, and then my body will close eventually, not allowing me to be relaxed and content and enjoying the intimacy with this man, and then I will be overall tense and upset around him, and I will not feel like myself in the relationships. I will feel really anxious at all times. And then eventually I will become paranoid and very tired, and I will forget to take care for myself because my focus will be always there and then, trying to make sure, trying to control the system that I cannot control just for my own safety's sake. And then eventually something happens. And it becomes a very devastating thing. When we work with such system, there is a wonderful complex of practices in Tantra that allow us to work with our concepts, that allow us to detach from dysfunctional beliefs, that allow us to gain clarity of perception of life as it is. And that is accomplished how? That is accomplished by touching and experiencing the scenario that's beneficial, such that I can find through that visual and feeling of functional, comfortable, safe attachment, I can find how I feel when this happens. And through that I find my own supports. I find my own strength. Because in those practices, we are employing exclusively our own psychological resource, which means that the state is generated irrespective of who you are with. Through those practices, when you are envisioning and experiencing the good, healing attachment, by envisioning a beautiful, this divine lover, for instance, you are, through envisioning that, you are connecting with your own psychological resource that builds your self-perception and builds your internal support, builds your stable self-perception and internal support. With that, you're going into the world. The importance of potential event that would be crushing previously to you is much lower. You're not entering relationships with this tension, with this expectation of catastrophe. You're more relaxed. The importance of that is lower. And the paradox is when the importance lowers, it becomes much easier to build. The relationships become just better. They become more easygoing. Because when you have hyper-importance due to trauma, due to some previous traumatic programming, when you learned that something requires a lot of control, a lot of tension, it's an incredibly draining thing because it was very hurtful. It generates a ton of tension, a ton of importance. It focuses your mind on that. It makes you hold on to that thing. Trauma in general encapsulates and it lives in your mind and your psyche as a defense mechanism that I will not let it happen again. It's really difficult to notice anything about your life when presented with the possibility of re-traumatizing yourself. But the paradox is that the more you are afraid, the more you live in the context of fearing the possibility of re-traumatization, the more likely it is that this event will happen again. And the more tense you are, the more the person who will be next to you will be feeling threat. Observe dogs. One dog freaks out, the other dog starts freaking out, they start barking at each other, start defending. People are also receiving cues, behavioral cues from each other. If someone is tense, your body tenses up. You feel threat because somebody else feels threat. There's a huge distance between you. But it's not the distance, it's not that beautiful buffer of the garden that we had previously on the board. It's not that beautiful space in which you can come and rejoice. No, it is the distance that requires you to be defensive, that requires you to potentially deflect a hit at every moment. You become exhausted. If you live in a constant tension, you become really exhausted, you don't have energy to do anything. Moreover, you don't have energy to even enjoy. Not only you are devoid of energy to enjoy, you even are not capable of enjoyment, because the dominant is to struggle, suffer, and expect something terrible. Because suffering is real, and joy is not real in the mind of many people, even though suffering and joy are just biochemical reactions that happen in the brain and in the body. It's all biochemistry. You can cultivate either. But sometimes the distortion in people who went through trauma is that suffering is real and joy is not real. Because for many years I was exercising something negative, something unpleasant, and that's the biochemistry that I'm accustomed to. And I was not simultaneously exercising something pleasant. So I was not training my body, I was not training my brain to produce those hormones and to actually sense them, respond to them. Never exercised that. So the dominant becomes suffering. And that biochemistry reflects, my minute facial movements and how the body works. The level of energy drops. Person next to you reads this as threat, vulnerability, danger, discomfort, tension, something to escape, something to avoid. And that shapes the relationships. It's not possible to build a beautiful garden in that, when all you're focused on is a potential threat. So in Tantra, we're working on actually resolving those carved in associations, paradigms, beliefs, and trauma. We're rewriting that. We're introducing this different biochemistry. We're introducing this new, safe form of attachment, such that you primarily, it's not some magic of let's visualize the perfect partner and manifest this perfect partner. The focus is not there. The focus is on your internal state. Who are you in presence of the ideal partner? Who are you when relationships are safe and beautiful and loving? Who are you when your partner is wishing and the world is wishing love, comfort, bliss upon you? Who are you in that scenario? Likely you could be in a position when you never experienced that ever in your life before. We're introducing that. So with fatigue and burnout, we discussed that we're managing the full life, and then we approach it the same way as with emotional scarcity and with that thing. But if the crisis is due to suspicion, broken trust, and stuff like that, then it requires a more comprehensive work, because there is likely traumatization and perhaps even re-traumatization in one of the partners. And then saving relationship or not, it's already up to the partner. And then, of course, when there is violence always means that we're abandoning the relationship, we are approaching safe distance. And for the person who underwent violence, we need to perform a very deep work on restoring the internal supports, in restoring also the right for aggression, or reclaiming the aggression. We are replaying the scene when the person is ready, when the person is a little bit healed and more resourceful. We are replaying that scenario and legalizing aggression and defending the person in that scenario. such that we release all of the burden, emotional burden, from that act of violence that the person underwent. And then we need to move out of the role of the submissive, of the recipient of life, into the person who is a creative, into the person who is a leader, into a person who is in tune with their core, in tune with their desires. And this is a vast body of work, very transformative, very important work, to bring person from the grief and this remorse about that they allowed someone to treat them that poorly, that they enabled those events in their life. It's also very important work to move out of that self-perception of those thoughts, and sometimes they become very bitter, intrusive thoughts of how I allowed this to happen in my life. I knew that it would happen. How did I allow this to happen? Sometimes people undergo repeated acts of violence, and that becomes this. Whew. Hippocrates, hello. It was not my camera. We have a storm going on. I think the tower got knocked off, or something happened with internet access. But I started my phone. It seemed to have helped. But we're going to wrap up here. Hippocrates, I missed you so much. I wanted to catch you a couple of times, and I'm so happy that we finally intercepted. Thank you so much. Very excited to see you. New Fight Beginning, hello. So yeah, we're going to continue the topic tomorrow because I also want to cover the topic of cheating as one of the crises in relationships. And I have some other ideas to discuss. So if you don't mind, we'll make it tomorrow's stream. Кирюшка, спасибо большое. You see the chat also. I'm not running away yet. Yeah, let's close the conversation here. I already moved my whiteboard because I thought that it was something tower related. But I restarted my phone just to make sure that my YouTube stream is not just streaming without me knowing. And it seemed to have helped. Спасибо, мои милые. Очень красиво. So many new people today. I'm very excited. We actually had very good performance in the second half of the stream. And then it abrupted. But tomorrow will be exciting as well. How do you sign up for your workshop? Email me. Let me do the email thing. Where is it? Yeah. info@rawformoflife.com. That's on my channel. Go on my channel on the main page, and there you will find my email. Or you can go on my website. There's also email somewhere. You can do contact form submission, but through email usually. And put your handle for it. Yes, Kivушка. I don't know. I don't know, up to you, Kivушка. It's always very beautiful. But if you want to make a closure tomorrow, because we kind of abrupted today, I know that I usually I do this formal ending of each stream with review and with a recap. I feel like we are leaving on an open note. That's why it's up to you if you feel like it's a good moment for that. But we're not done with the topic. That's the only thing today that is a little bit different and out of our ritual. Hippocrates, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Have no idea what I did to get here. And if you did, you'd probably frown. So I am switching on myself. You make an old very happy, and the fortitude which you shines from you got me here. You got me thinking, Hippocrates. And I hope that one day you will share what you did, because there's never a bad day for frowning, I think. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that we finally met, because two streams in a row, I did not catch you. These are cute emojis. So yes, Hippocrates, please. What is better, California or Florida? I might vacation at some point, but I know which is best. I've never been to California. I only lived in Florida. We can leave on good open notes. Yeah, I don't feel accomplishment today, guys. I would really want to continue because the topic is loaded, actually. So, tomorrow we'll meet up to continue on crisis in relationships. And if you guys have stories, maybe you will get inspired to bring up some actual case studies. Because in my expertise, the crisis in relationships are numbness, just cohabitation, then some pointless conflicts, and absence of intimacy, and also not inversion of roles, but substitution of partnership with uh, parenthood, parent-child dynamics and such. Is it better to build connection first in relationship before tantra, or is it better to do tantric hookup with stranger? No, I don't know. It depends on your how you feel during a hookup, as you worded. What you put, what mindset you're bringing into that, if any. Because if you are capable of being fully embodied, fully safe, without any foreign thoughts, if you're able to relax, give in, flow in and out of the process, opposed to just riding the initial first wave of excitement, of novelty, then you will be able to pull off the tantric intimacy in some capacity, some aspect of that. If for you it's just a momentary excitement, quick arousal, quick intercourse, quick release, then it's likely that you won't have resource there to enjoy the tantric intimacy. And moreover, tantric intimacy is contingent upon development of many skills and authenticity that will allow you to choose the partner properly. Connect with people not out of deficit, but connect with people out of something wholesome, out of your wholeness, out of your pleasure of life. These are two different dynamics, because if there are, for example, two people who meet each other in the dark, moist, musty tunnel of life with rats running around and them feeling completely lost, and they met together and they're trying to be intimate, as opposed to two people who cultivated the space of joy, love, and leadership and personal strength and high energy, and then they come to intimacy. These are two different modes of operation, I would say. So see for yourself. I don't know where you are in life. I don't recall seeing you in my streams before. I have no idea of who you are and how you function. So totally up to you. Hook up, are there tantric trailers and tracks? Chat. Why is YouTube banning flowers? They're so pretty. I thought about it and figured out the solution, Kivushka. Hook up, yeah, I remember those days. Good afternoon. Dark musty tunnel of life, yeah. At what point does compromise become self-betrayal? You tell me. You arrived late or I arrived early? Why is good luck a blessing? I arrived right on time, and so did you. Good luck a blessing? I don't know. Kivushka, very pretty. Hello from Florida, hello. Vegan male and carnivore female. Can a tantric relationship work? I don't know to what depth you are in your dietary things, but vegan male, perhaps you have a little bit better resilience to the dietary deficiencies, depending also on how many years you are in veganism. I have plenty of materials, you can look into them. But being with a deficient body, starved body, and approaching just anything in life perhaps will not be sustainable or high energy. Thank you, Hippocrates. To be honest, I don't even understand the meaning of tantric, not gonna lie. I think PW also doesn't quite understand. Tantric is just probably some trolling, but tantric intimacy is intimacy when all of your senses are turned on, when all of your senses are habitually awakened, when your mind can connect with different parts of your body and can respond to the stimuli that are typically occurring during the intimacy and that are actually encouraged during tantric intimacy. You are capable of moving your mind with flexibility. You are capable of sustaining different levels of arousal, and you're capable of returning to arousal when necessary or alleviating it, deeply relaxing, deeply yielding, and then um, blooming back up into a more excited, more aroused, energized state, and thus deepening each relaxation and intensity of sensations. And then you can play around with how sensations travel through your body. You can locate your focus and diffusion in different body parts. So it's just a much more overwhelming sensory experience, which is also performed with a very clear and very healthy mind, and with high level of freedom, personal freedom, and at the same time very high level of wholeness. Because sexuality becomes sometimes a playground for, on the one hand it's exploratory, but sometimes it becomes a playground for very dysfunctional things. When a person surrenders their ownership of their body, is in becoming very passive, effectively renting their body out without any active participation, without being present in intimacy. They're just donating it as a toy for the partner, for instance. Or sometimes sexuality becomes a playground for manipulation, some weird ill power dynamics. These things are eradicated, or not eradicated, they're turned into healthy modes of operation where happiness, pleasure, play, and high energy are cultivated, such that people can have very diverse, bright, overwhelming intimate experience. So this is what I would describe as tantric intimacy. Madam, I'll just do both. That's my solution. Hopefully it won't be overwhelming reflection. Dobry slovo, Kiushka. Thank you so much. We have good uh, it's it's a very blessed and beautiful task to be conducting and reflecting on beautiful words. So it's a good habit to have, to connect with that type of relationship with people. Isn't that so? Tantric ascension. I don't know, whatever your word is ascension. So isn't that moving the sexual energy up to the spine to the brain? No, it's not. It's there's no vector, predefined vector. There's no point. There's no vector. There is a ability. In fact, when you are locking into some rigid mode of operation, in effect, it may mean that you are not capable of controlling the system, have a good control over the system, because you learn one scenario, but the system is much more complex. It's like taking a musical instrument, learning one simple song, and for example, getting set on learning the music. But there are many more musical pleasures that you can extract from an instrument if you learn how to activate different modes of operation. Thank you, Kurt. No inhibitions, no limits to roam free and ascend to the best possible experience or of whatever it is you're focused on. Hippocrates, thank you. But acceptance comes first. Clarity. Clarity, yes. How can someone know whether they're trying to save the relationship or just trying to avoid the pain of letting go? Good question. Let me write it down, please. I wrote it down on the whiteboard. Uberfacts Farsi. We can talk about it tomorrow. Hi, Arthur. Uberfacts, you should ask ChatGPT that question. Instrument, extract what you want. Where are you from? Hard question. Did you learn your knowledge from the great tantric master Osho? No, I learned my knowledge from the great tantric master, my teacher, who studied at Kamakya temple and got initiated in it, and holds a PhD degree in sexology, coincidentally, and also has master's degree in some yogic thing. So she is a very powerful person who has vast experience working with clients, having very good modern understanding of psychology and how to work with people, how to efficiently work with people, and at the same time remain in the ethical domain. So I learned from a person with a professional education, with broad experience, with academic experience, and also with from the person who learned at the home and the base of Tantra, that still holds the tradition, that did not surrender to the centralization of spiritual life, so to speak, in India, the Kamakya region. So that's my teacher. Thank you, Киюшка. Let's read. Моя дорогая, это я так выражаю, от хороших людей в жизни не надо отказываться, правда ведь? Они ведь не часто нам встречаются на нашем пути, да? Их надо ценить. Вы одна из таких людей, именно поэтому я вас так ценю и дарю вам цветы. Это прям сильно, интенсивно. Ну правда ведь? Вообще от жизни отказываться от людей, хороших или плохих, я думаю, в принципе не надо. Прям чтобы отказываться. Потому что люди это либо часть нашей жизни, часть какого-то пульса нашей жизни, где мы идем в унисон, двигаемся в унисон с этим человеком. Либо это люди, которые нас заставляют вот что-то вот в нас такое выкорчевать, возможно. Или где-то что-то полечить. Или где-то что-то показать. И, наверное, это будет скорее не отказ, если эти люди уйдут из нашей жизни. А просто наш жизненный путь, он как-то так повернется вследствие некой внутренней работы или внутреннего разрешения, что у этих людей будет, не будет места, возможно, в нашей жизни. А в принципе отказываться от людей, это так, не знаю, кстати, сложно у меня, отношение к этому. Да, культивировать очень... Я поняла тоже ценность людей в жизни. Очень сильно поняла ценность людей. И иногда мне интересно, почему в мире столько разрозненности, разобщенности. Потому что человеку от человека часто нужно и хочется получить любви и заботы. А у нас как-то в обществе свелось все либо к таким деловым отношениям исключительно, либо к отношениям, интимным, например. Как будто нам хочется присвоить человека, или вот как-то им физически обладать, или что-то. А где-то ушла вот эта вот зона, в которой человек, например, может другого человека приласкать, успокоить, обнять, порадовать, просто какой-то разделить приятный эпизод в жизни. Или даже трудный эпизод в жизни, пересидеть вместе или продвинуться через него вместе. Я сейчас понимаю и экспериментирую, то есть я сейчас оказалась в социальной среде, и онлайн, и в жизни, в такой реальной, где я сталкиваюсь с людьми. И у меня интересно очень происходит наблюдение. Как много человеку можно дать, если выйти за рамки, какой-то то ли западной, возможно, современной, очень изолированной системы. Сколько с человека можно разделить тепла. Единственное, что я сейчас пытаюсь понять, это как все это вместить в жизнь эффективно. Чтобы на все это хватало ресурсы, чтобы в этом была легкость. Мне очень хочется достичь этой легкости во взаимоотношениях с людьми, чтобы именно культивировать больше теплоты и больше, возможно, какой-то связи, даже тактильности. Чего-то такого очень по-человечески, не знаю, какого-то такого семейственного, чего-то такого очень близкого. Поэтому этот комментарий очень сейчас мне в тему тоже попал, в тему моих наблюдений. Спасибо большое. Holy Freaky. И Вакари. Мне очень-очень-очень приятно, Кивушка. Я вас тоже очень люблю. Chad, I actually won't be able to translate my response probably because I said so much. Kiva, do you want me to translate? I will leave it to you because it's you can if you want. So just feel like it was a lot said. Yeah. You can also, guys, by the way, Chad, if you want, you can also take a screenshot and translate it if you have like this Google text translator. Completed супер чат. Киушка, спасибо большое. Officially satisfied. Yeah, guys are figuring it out. Lost in translation. Beautiful words were spoken and delivered. Now I'm happy. And beautiful thoughts were also, with that message. You even you don't know, but you healed my little conundrum. Because last night I didn't sleep even well because there was an encounter that challenged me so much. I was trying to figure out some friendship that left me really torn inside. And this solved the conundrum. Because I got inspired to allow the warmth and acceptance to govern that friendship, as opposed to let it be governed by expectations and some, I don't know, preconceived concepts. So it's really, really important what you just said. Last night I have no idea, couldn't sleep. Fuck. You're thinking too much, Nico Pluto. I think too much, so we think enough, I think just enough about things that are of importance for me. Don't stop telling what to do, Nico. It brings ease. When you give again, when you bring clarity, when you commit, remember we had live stream about commitment. Power of commitment is that it brings you clarity, ease, and it infuses the system with a lot of energy and a lot of resources. And so when you are in between some decisions or in between two ways of approaching thing, there's no commitment. Hence, there's no clarity, and hence, there's a lot of unrest and there's a lot of energy leak. And this brings clarity. Because you played on the string of, uh, of a stronger, more complete part, more, more loving part. And that inspired the commitment. And it brought ease. Dylan K. Summers, join tomorrow. We're going to discuss relationship crisis, and we can talk about your case study. Bring your story, please. Tomorrow, 5 p.m. New York time. Guys, if you make it on Saturday, I will give you all clarity on life was last week, and you piss yourself laughing guaranteed. Hippocrates. Thank you. Have a great stream, my friend Nico Pluto. Thank you. I hope you join tomorrow. Thank you so much, Kirka, for flowers. So, people who want to join the workshop, send me an email tonight or tomorrow, basically before Saturday, such that I can send you the link. Is the workshop on Zoom? Yes, it is. So glad I can replay these. This one sounds if I can tie into it. Hippocrates. Let's be back to our routine. When is your thing going back to normal? I look forward to it. So, tomorrow we're continuing this topic. Another clarity, another preset thing to look forward to. And then, yeah, workshop. Workshops are not recorded, guys. So, which means that you cannot rewatch them, but what we're going to be doing, we're going to be going through the same materials probably over with new people. Or I will be posting videos, video lessons on my website, and then you can send me questions, for instance. I don't know how we'll do that. I look how it's done on Wix. I build my website on the platform, so we'll see what resources they have for feedback. Maybe it can be done as a course where you can leave your review or impressions after each practice. We'll see how we'll organize that. But yeah, we'll have some, even when we complete the course of these, the course of these practices that we're now tackling. After we're done with that, we're still going to be meeting for some other things. So, is this recorded? No, it's not. I'm back on routine Friday. Finally, wonderful. I'll be here tomorrow, cool. But the WhatsApp, there might be hit or miss. But I'm working on that. No worries, Hippocrates. Thank you so much, Kirk. Yes, Arthur. And now Arthur, guess who's right, who's lying to you. So, any closing comments, questions, organizational notes? Sunset Island. We are closing the live stream at this point. It's funny how she tries to leave, but then we distract her for 20 more minutes. Always happens. Good stream, Кирюшка. А, Кирюшка, спасибо большое. Если нельзя обнять человека лично, его всегда можно обнять словами на сон грядущий. That's usually how I see things. Мадам, спасибо вам за теплые слова и за ваш ответ. Hippocrates. Thank you so much, Киюшка. За ваши подарки. И за ваши красивые пожелания. За вашу теплоту. Ура, support! Done now, promise. Thank you so much, Kiva. What makes you happiest in life? The life itself, I don't know. You never know you never know when you will be enchanted by something so much that you will have the most beautiful moment of the recent days. It's something that just when you develop your mindfulness and awareness about your life, and when you broaden your perception and susceptibility to things, that's when you start sourcing stimuli that trigger happiness feelings from a lot of places. Hippocrates, listen. I wanted to talk about that super chat. How much of that do you actually get? I think, I don't know, I think I googled, I think I get 80% of that. It depends. I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes it doesn't add up. So I don't know. I think 80%, maybe 70%. I know 50%. I don't think 50. I don't know. Maybe I'll check. I don't know. Thank you, Ash. Donations get taxed. They're not. I mean, they will get taxed when I report them as income, but they get commission from YouTube. YouTube basically is the platform that enables transaction. They charge commission. Are you a rough or gentle lover? I have this specifics that when I feel affection, I sometimes do it aggressively. I show affection aggressively sometimes. My dog hates it, for instance. That's the type of affection. So I have to moderate myself. You to leave. Better for you to buy a session. Well, I mean, financially speaking, yeah, the cut that I get through the website is the commission that they charge is I think 2%. So yeah, that's quite a bit less lossy. Thank you, Chad, so much for joining the floral explosion. Jack Nitro Burst wants me to marry him. Sure. You're gonna need $1 billion for that. For what? I didn't compute. Okay, noted is I think Kiva's phrase. And we would need more flowers for that too. Expensive but worth it. Ooh. Yeah, session currently is 60. It's one-on-one session, $60. Yeah, and that's 1 hour 30 minutes with also interstitial questions if you have them during the week or however whatever spacing you choose. 60 pretty cheap. Some people would charge 500 for something like that. It's intergalactic questions. 60, yeah, it's so therapy, for example, psychotherapy can be subsidized with insurance oftentimes. So for people going through licensed therapist who accepts insurance could be quite affordable. So my pricing, I mean, I want it to be on the one hand affordable for a broad scope of people, and at the same time I wanted to cost enough such that people have discipline to commit to the process. And yeah, I don't know, at this point in history I haven't felt the need to increase my price. I've been to a counselor and it was $80 each session. Yeah, it can go, I don't know, the I know that it can be corrected with insurance, so I know that it can be quite affordable. But yeah, this is kind of the scope of prices that I'm familiar with. Dang, so if she gets 100 people who buy a session, she gets $6,000. Yeah, that add up. That adds up. 100 people, it will be 1 hour 30 minutes, so it's 100 hours, 150 hours. 150 hours divided by 150 divided by 6, so 10 days. It will be 10 days of uninterrupted work to service 100 people back to back to back to back. Probably would not be woo, marine theme. Kiva is summoning good weather for me tomorrow such they can go to the beach and swim. Giving my therapist flowers, makes eye contact, looks away, makes eye contact again. Have so much on your mind. I buy you a session, you'll be happy, no super chat. You buy me a session, you're going to buy a session for you. It will be your time. You buy me a session. I'll stand out of your way. You have fun now, Nico. Whose way you were standing on? I think you already done those hours, Nastya. Well, probably, probably. Again, there is difference, between focused work with one person and going in depth on topics. Because people they bring sometimes there's like the scope of issues that people bring is not that vast, but the nuances that make it unique and the approaches that people demand for having their problem solved, this is what makes this job really creative and really challenging and really unique. So uniqueness comes in those nuances, combination of things, and what the person, a given person, is susceptible to. So finding those clues to solving problem. And this is where just a lecture discussing some topic may not be enough to get the person out of the forest of some trouble. So that's where sometimes, we conduct one-on-one work with people who join the streams. And that's when the real juicy part happens. Sometimes format of live stream is not quite enough. Because sometimes there's like distractions, there's a lot of diffusion. And that's when efficiency of work tanks a little bit. Some people need to be fully immersed in work. They need to be fully seen, to be fully heard, and they need to themselves to be in this box one-on-one with the person to bring results. So that's what people would be paying for in the one-on-one sessions. Such there's zero distractions, there's full devotion. The person is heard in a concentrated fashion, and no foreign eyes, nothing. And there is no general conversation on the topic. For which actually these live streams are very useful and supplemental, because sometimes we need to create some broader context, perhaps, just to be on the same page when we're working on the problem. Leslie Byron, thank you, I'm glad as well. I need a hypnotist, the new 5 beginning says. Interesting. Thank you, Kivishka. Flower power, yep. You already given your time, Nasty. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Hippocrates. I also appreciate you guys. I appreciate you coming and appreciate you being with me in this space. 9 p.m. The scope of my issues, it's a huge scope. Hello from California. How to yawn elegantly, gracefully. Still, by the way, mystery how Nico was standing on my way, but it's okay. "360 no scope, my issues." Okay, we have weather talk. Kelly Sunset. I don't know where I'm from many places. I am human of the world. Any questions? Substantial questions? She's from Saturn. Nice. Well, Chad. Thank you so much, Chad. Your streams have been so beneficial to me. I'm so happy, Chad. I'm very happy. And I look forward to seeing you, by the way. Rahim, yes. I'm really looking forward to working with you more closely again on the workshops, because it's really curious progression for work. Butterflies. Whew. Your voice is interesting. Kiva, what are these? They look like gingerbreads with, yeah. that are jumping on some button or something. Gingerbread. Ginger. Gingerbread celebration. Oh my god, I want to show you something. So today I went on some Telegram account. Let me see if I can show it to you. I saw this emoji and I super needed in my life. This one. Can you see it? I hope you can see it. It's such a phenomenal emoji. It's behind, it's a little bit behind the chat, but you get the gist. I don't know where to find it. It's just it's supreme. I tried making them. I don't know. I need to find them urgently. Broski digs. Well, emotional release is good to perform, but I will let you go with perhaps an option to set yourself up for enjoying some aspect of tomorrow. In addition to certain emotions about your job. Okay? I feel that one. Great emoji. Yeah. I couldn't find it. I can't replicate it with anything. But now essential. It's essential for my online self-expression. Let's contemplate it again. Emojis are essential workers. Okay, my loves, I am going. Hippocrates, are you into, I don't know, it's some was it planned at least? Is it some form of camping? Sure. All right. I need to get myself and move myself towards bed. But first, also I like to have a cup of tea, wind down, and it's already past 3 a.m. So, let's part ways. It would be super cool if you were here in my kitchen right now and we could share tea together. But Hippocrates is lying in some mud, I guess. People have work tomorrow. Well, it has been nice, my дорогая, and друзья, and silent друзья, lurkers. We have a garden to nap in now. Wonderful. Nice day, also nice thinking you, friend. New beginning. I guess we are in email, right? It's with you, I think. And we'll meet for the workshop. And not as bad as mud, but sure. Keep it for a good moment, Hippocrates. We're there to listen to your full story. Bye bye, everyone. Tea great with 8 grams and lemon, sure. So,